Hey fam, let's have a little heart to heart. I'm speaking directly from my heart because there are a couple of things that I wanted to share. When I'm asked to minister, I never take it for granted. As a matter of fact, I get really nervous because I don't take it lightly speaking to God's people. But often, whenever I minister, it doesn't even have to be in my notes, but at some point, I'm going to say this phrase. You have to decide what you believe about God and what you believe about His Word. At some point while speaking, I'm going to say that because that is an overarching theme from my own journey of faith. Understanding what I believe about God and what I believe about His Word. Let me explain to you why I say that. As a mother, as I have tried to, and I am trying to raise my children, my husband and I, in the fear of the Lord, as I am trying to present God to them, I have really, really focused with great intention on presenting God from a standpoint of relationship and not religion. When I was in college, I actually wrote a book called Relationship, Not Religion. I am looking for that book because I'm going to try to rewrite it for or with my middle daughter. But I wrote a book called Relationship, Not Religion, and that has shown up in how I try to guide my children in their relationship with God. Why? Because I believe that and this might be the therapist in me, I believe that we can focus all we want to on the things you're not supposed to do. We can focus all we want to on the behavior. We can focus on the part of trying to do right. But speaking of me being a therapist, the truth is what we do, our behavior is only 10% of what's really going on. If you think about the saying, it's the tip of the iceberg, the behavior is just what you see above the waterline. Below the waterline is all the other things, your beliefs, your core beliefs, your mind, your feelings, your thoughts. All of that's beneath the waterline in a therapeutic perspective, but even in our faith perspective, I believe it applies that the list of all the things that a believer is not supposed to do is really just 10% of what's really going on. I want to teach my daughters to have relationship with God. I want them to understand the love of God. I want them to understand the intimacy of God. I want them to be in fellowship with Him. I want them to understand who He is, because when you're in relationship, it changes how you show up. When you're in relationship, you care about what you do and you don't do. I love my husband. Many of y'all know, say it with me, I don't play when it comes to Lee May. I really don't. But I don't want my husband being faithful to me just because he's trying to follow some rule. I want him to be faithful to me and honorable to me. I want to be faithful to him and honorable to him because we love one another, because we care about one another, because I know that if I dishonor him and disrespect him, it would break his heart. He knows if he dishonors me or disrespects me, it would break my heart. And so that drives the behavior more than the behavior trying to drive what is in the core of my heart. That is why I say you want to be clear about what you believe about God and what you believe about His Word. As I'm raising my daughters, I am very intentional about what I allow and what I don't allow, what I'm okay with them doing and what I'm not okay with them doing, because I don't want their relationship with God to be fueled by being beat over the head. I want it to be them having an intimate relationship with God. So why do I always say it matters what you understand about God and what you understand about His Word? Because I want us to understand the character of God so that when the enemy tries to whisper something in our heart, when the enemy tries to present something about our life or about God, we will quickly be able to dismiss it because we have a clear understanding about the character of God. And anything that doesn't align with His character, I can let go. So when the enemy tries to convince me that because this hasn't happened in my life, it means that God doesn't love me. Because this hasn't shown up on my journey, it means that God isn't real. I can dismiss that no matter how much that's glaring blaring and blaring in my face, I can dismiss it because I have a pure understanding about the character of God. One of my pet peeves is for somebody to believe something about me when you know that's not even how I show up. For somebody to believe something about me when you know the Robin that you know wouldn't even do that. For me to even do something and you automatically think the worst is a pet peeve of mine, because won't you give me the benefit of the doubt? That's because I want you to remember what you know about me. Well, surely we can give that same grace when we are walking in our journey with God, that we can say, wait a minute. This looks crazy, but I know my God. This isn't what I thought it was going to be, but I know my God. And so because I know my God, I'm going to turn to his word. You got to decide what you know about God and what you know about his word, what you believe about God and what you believe about his word. Because when things are crazy, I can go back to his word and I can apply his word to this situation to make my heart settle down. Because sometimes you want understanding, but many times you got to choose God over understanding. And so when things are crazy, I can say, well, the Bible already told me that weapons are going to form. The Bible already told me in this world you were going to have trials and tribulations. The Bible already told me that there would be storms. And so because I understand the character of God and I understand his word, no matter how crazy it looks, I believe his word. What do you believe about God? And what do you believe about his word? What do you believe about God? And what do you believe about his word? I believe as believers, this is my heart to heart with all of us. As believers, we have to go back to the basics. What do you believe about God despite what's going on in your life? What do you believe about God no matter how crazy it is? What do you believe about God and what do you believe about his word? Because see, some of us have been pursuing God, but we've really been pursuing his hand and not his heart. And so we'll say things like, I've been following God all my life and this hasn't happened and this hasn't happened, but have you really leaned into his heart rather than his hand? So that's my prayer for us as we wrap up the rest of this year, as we begin to pray through 2026. Before you do a reset of your goals, I want you to do a reset of your soul. I'm going to talk about that soon. Before you reset your goals, I want you to do a reset of your soul. And I want you to pause for a minute and really consider, what do you believe about God? And what do you believe about his word? Not what pop culture says, not what your favorite internet guru says. What does the word of God say? Have you applied the word of God to your everyday life situations and lined it up with